it's everything. It's everything in connection to a pure life, whatever that means. And, it's kind of restating stuff I said again. It's always been so clear to me that there is no reference point there, because it's hundreds of millions of years ago. How do we reference that today? And I'm able to a powerful enough extent bring that through, and I guess part of that is a little bit of the story of my spirit, and just something that I kind of feel I was born with, because that's always been there. And the way I've felt it before is just this feeling that this acute awareness that the purity is so easily lost, in even just in how we say something. Boom, it's out the window, and of course it's work in progress to come into that, but and the healing school I went to, like, I don't know, 25 to 30 years ago now. I feel like I was really lucky, because the guy I chose to study with, he had reached some higher states of awakening and consciousness, and really brought that through in the teachings. And in receiving those teachings from him, just out of the mechanics of life, of existence, basically, is what he called it, what we talked about. That was a third of the program, and that really kind of anchored that awareness in for me. It's so easy to divert off. It's like, oh, let's take a little shortcut here, and it's fine in the moment, and then and it's interesting, it's like the further up you go, the narrower the road is, and you have less room for mistakes. And it's sort of like, well, that first time that little shortcut is taken, you don't really notice it, but as you go further and further into time, the more it becomes evident, kind of thing.
Your work, Marianne, is not really known in for the people who are doing this work. Like it's like it's like an added an
extra piece. Yeah, and I think part of the thing with me is that I come from an energy healing background, so I come from that aspect which is different than frequency work. It is a different level. Their frequency and energy work are different. They certainly do overlap, because all my teachers have talked about frequency, but talking more about energy, because that was the terminology back then. And now it's the cool thing to say frequency. It's like everybody, I've noticed, people don't say guru or teacher anymore. They say mentor, So it's a question of what people feel comfortable with, and what is the more commonly used terminology as we go along. But it really has given me, I think that's part of it comes through in my work, because you can't, you don't just ignore everything that's come before. You build up on top of it. And so I know that other clients have commented for private sessions about, it's like, I fill in that, I work on that gap, those in between layers, and I can fill in that space. So I think that might be part of what's coming into play here. And it's not like I necessarily have to do it actively, but my system goes into that, because it's done that for so long. And I trained in that, and I learned that, and I worked in that. So I think that might be one of the changing pieces, the pure hands-on frequency energy healing like I got, which is very different. That's how I started doing my work, was hands on the person, and that flow of energy coming through the person. And I know that still comes through when I work on people, kind of thing. So that might be kind of the piece that comes in that makes it different, that really makes it kind of unique.